We're going to talk more about all of this now with Middle East expert Julie Norman, who joins me live from London. Julie, thanks so much for taking the time to speak to us. Now, later today, France is set to join Britain, Australia, and Canada in newly recognizing a Palestinian state. France, Canada, and the UK, the first G7 countries to do so. How significant is that?
This really is extremely significant. I mean, I know there is a lot of cynicism around this move by some, seeing it as maybe political grandstanding or something like this. But really, when we look at the long history of this conflict, this has been a move that I think as recently as even a year or two ago, some of us just saw as really unthinkable. And so to see not only one state, but multiple states making this move at this really crucial moment, of course in Gaza, but also in this West Bank, is really a very significant foreign policy move. Yes, it's diplomatic. Yes, it is more right now, I would say, more in what it symbolizes this moral commitment to Palestinian self-determination, but that still matters. And I think that really needs to be appreciated and underscored.
What about claims from the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that those countries who are recognizing a Palestinian state are actually leaning into anti-Semitism?
Yeah, this is a response that we've seen, from Israel since these moves were first announced several months ago. What I would say is for France, for the UK, for them, this is actually what they see in the long term as supporting Israel. They are supporting an Israeli state. They are supporting a Palestinian state along Israel. And with this idea that this is the model that has been really, the policy for decades to bring stability and security to both peoples. Macron, Starmer have been very clear this state would not include Hamas. They have called quite clearly for the disarming of Hamas, for their exclusion from any kind of state in the future. And so for them, this is saying, look, we are really trying to support the state of Israel by supporting a moderate and democratic Palestine alongside them.
Julie, one country, of course, that will not be recognizing Palestine anytime soon is the United States. The U.S. even revoked the Palestinian president's visa ahead of the UN General Assembly. What does that mean for any potential future of a Palestinian state without the U.S. on board?
Look, I think we need to be really clear-eyed about the limitations, and it's the U.S., but of course just Israel on the ground as well, not wanting to see this happening. But the real actor with leverage on Israel is, of course, the U.S. and France, the U.K., Canada. They're very well aware of that. I think even though these states don't have the same leverage as the U.S., that doesn't mean they should not be using the leverage that they do, and that we're seeing that now with the statehood moves. And what this also really reveals, Jeannie, is a real isolation of the U.S. in their continued really unfettered support for Israel. You now have all members of the Security Council in the UN, except for the U.S., recognizing Palestine. You have a growing number of G7 states recognizing Palestine. And so it's really starting to be the U.S. as the outlier rather than the other way around. Again, Trump, we know, is a very unpredictable president, a very untraditional president, and we're really not sure where his future policies will go on Gaza or with the region more broadly. He obviously won't be recognizing Palestine anytime soon, but I do think we should be watching what happens over the coming week when Trump will be talking not only with Netanyahu, but also with Arab partners about, if and how the Gaza war is finally going to wind down.
And it is interesting because even earlier this month, the UN voted to back a resolution that's actually trying to breathe new life again into this two-state solution without the involvement of Hamas. That's been very clear. It clearly condemns Hamas. It demands it surrenders its weapons. I mean, given all of that, why is that still not enough for the U.S. and for Israel?
Yeah, I think that's a question that's going to be coming up more and more. And again, the declaration last week, the recognition moves today, all those are ways to kind of, again, just really unveil how much the U.S. is alone in backing Israel in this way and saying, look, we are saying and doing all the things that have been asked for over the last year and a half. So where now are you going to meet us? If you have not only Western states, European states, but really almost the entire Arab region, the full Arab League, endorsing this two-state solution, ready to at least de facto recognize Israel and also disarm Hamas, then this needs to be something that that we kind of seize this moment and work from this. And the U.S. is again the one that will kind of be the obstacle here, and I think just trying to lay that bare for everyone to see.
Do you think we could be anywhere near a tipping point, so to speak? I'm thinking there's been an increase in calls, for example, for a cultural boycott of Israel, hoping to perhaps emulate the success of what we saw during the apartheid era blockade of South Africa. Do you see that things shifting in that way?
Well, there certainly has, I think, been a momentum in that direction for quite some time, and I think the recognition moves may or may not add to that. I mean, really, what people are seeing on the ground in Gaza, I think, is what is mobilizing the calls for boycotts, for divestment, for sanctions, for these types of things, and these are things that are felt within Israel, not only by the government, but more so by citizens, by civil society, and it does increase that pressure. It does increase that risk of Israel becoming a so-called pariah state, and many citizens obviously don't want to see that happening. So I think as long as the war in Gaza is continuing, as long as the atrocities are still being viewed all over the world, those kinds of pressures will increase. And again, these steps alongside it for recognition, for a two-state solution, those things might seem a bit distant in the context of what people are seeing on the ground, but there are many who feel like these two things kind of go hand in hand. You need to have a political vision for Palestine, for Gaza, to move things out of this current situation.
Julie, thanks so much for taking the time to speak to us. Julie Norman in London.